All right, so the 2024 election, right? It's like, where do you even start? Tech, politics,
It's a lot.
it really is, and it feels like everything's colliding. But that's why we're here for this deep dive. We're going to try to unpack some of this, try to make sense of it. And I think, well, I think this one might have some surprises in store for us. We're talking about like major power plays, legal battles we need to wrap our heads around,
Oh,
and
and don't forget,
oh,
a
right.
whole demographic shift that could really change the game.
Okay, so listeners, buckle up because this is going to be interesting.
What's fascinating to me is how something like Elon Musk taking over Twitter.
Which, let's be real, felt huge EE at the time.
Right, but then you have the Supreme Court ruling that seems totally separate, right?
Yeah.
But it's not. It all ties together and could have huge ripple effects on the entire election.
Okay, so you're saying what happens on Twitter doesn't stay on Twitter, especially with Elon Musk in charge.
Exactly. And this court case, people might think, oh, it's just about some social media records, but it's so much bigger. It speaks to, like, corporate power in this digital age we're living in.
So remind me about that ruling again, just so everyone's on the same page.
Okay, so basically the Supreme Court, they basically shut down this whole legal fight between Elon Musk and special counsel Jack Smith.
Oh, wow. The Jack Smith.
Yeah, the one who's investigating Trump. They were fighting over access to Trump's Twitter records.
Which, I mean, that's a whole other can of worms.
Totally. But the point is, the court's decision basically says these tech giants, these Musks of the world.
They're calling the shots.
Exactly. They have a lot of power over how they deal with user data, even when it comes to the government, even when it comes to elections. It's kind of wild when you think about it.
So how does this whole thing actually impact the 2024 election specifically?
Well, for one thing, Musk and Trump, they're kind of buddies now.
That's putting it lightly.
True. And Musk already brought Trump's Twitter account back.
Which I still can't believe that happened.
It's unprecedented. You have this tech billionaire, right?
Yeah.
And a former president.
Giving up.
Yeah. And they have so much control over what people see and hear on Twitter.
Right.
Think about how that could influence voters. It's a lot of power.
It's like, okay, imagine an echo chamber, right? But like on steroids.
That's a pretty good way to put it. And some sources are even saying this court ruling, it just gives them more power to control that echo chamber.
See, and this is where I get tripped up. Because some people are saying, oh, this ruling is a win for Trump. But then others are like, no, this is terrifying. It'll undermine transparency and all that.
It's a double-edged sword, for sure.
Yeah.
It's like we want to protect people's privacy, right?
Right.
But we also need to hold powerful people accountable, especially in the age of social media where things can go viral in seconds.
It makes your head spin.
Yeah.
Free speech, privacy, the potential for misinformation.
It's a lot to unpack. And we're just getting started. Don't forget, we have another huge factor to consider here.
Oh, you mean the sleeping giant everyone keeps talking about?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, this giant's showing signs of waking up, and it could shake things up in a big way. It's a whole other layer to this whole election thing, right?
It's like we're trying to solve a puzzle,
Yeah.
but someone keeps adding pieces.
And there are all these weird shapes, But this sleeping giant, it's like the key to the whole thing. We were talking about Musk and Trump.
And how they're using social media like it's a
megaphone.
Yeah. But you're saying there's something even bigger than that, even bigger than all the tweets and the algorithms and...
Potentially, yeah. We need to talk about the Latino vote.
Okay, so everyone's heard that term, right? The Latino vote. But I feel like a lot of people still see it as this abstract thing.
And that's the problem. It's not abstract. These are real people, and they've been overlooked for way too long. Both parties, they're scrambling right now because they're realizing just how important this is.
It's like suddenly the old playbook doesn't work anymore.
Exactly. And the Latino population, it's booming. Fastest growing in the US, and that means electoral power. They have the numbers, and now they're finding their voice.
So what changed? Why now? Why is this the election where everyone's suddenly paying attention?
Well, it's not sudden, really. It's been building for years, but there's a few things happening at once. The economy's a mess, right?
Yeah.
Cost of living's insane. Housing is a nightmare.
Which affects everyone, but especially.
Exactly. Then you've got healthcare, education. These are huge issues that hit this demographic hard.
And I imagine things like climate change and immigration reform are pretty big deals, too.
Absolutely. And it's not just about one issue. It's about having a voice. For years, both parties have shown up with the same old promises, and it's not working anymore.
People are tired of being taken for granted.
They want solutions, and they want someone who actually listens to them.
So both campaigns, they're having to adjust, right? No more just checking boxes.
Exactly. It's not enough to just show up and say, vote for me. You have to actually earn their trust, and that takes time and effort.
So are we seeing entirely new strategies here?
We are. The old political playbook. It's out the window.
Okay, so how does it work now? How are the Trump and Harris campaigns approaching this?
Well, they're taking different paths. Harris, she's sticking with the classic Democratic strategy, get those traditional voters energized, focus on healthcare, education, social justice.
And she's playing the daughter of immigrants card pretty heavily.
Right, and that resonates with a lot of people, but then you have Trump.
Which, I mean, how does he even begin to approach this? Especially with his history on immigration.
It's a tightrope walk, that's for sure. He's really leaning into the economy, saying his policies will help everyone, regardless of background.
The rising tide lifts all boats argument.
Exactly. But he's also trying to paint the Democrats as out of touch. It's similar to what he did in 2016, but it's different this time.
It's different how?
The voters are more aware now. They're paying attention. It's not just about slogans anymore.
So both sides are having to bring their A game.
Oh, absolutely. They know the Latino vote could decide this whole thing, especially in those key swing states.
But it's more than just, like, who shouts the loudest, right?
Way more. It's about authenticity, about actually representing these communities.
Okay, but zoom out with me for a second. We've got this Musk-Trump alliance, this court case, and now this sleeping giant. These are some seriously big pieces of the puzzle. How do they all fit together, and what does it mean for, the average person trying to make sense of all this?
That's the million-dollar question, right? And it's tough because on the surface, they seem kind of separate, but trust me, they're all connected.
All right, so connect the dots, scores. How do we get from point A to point B here?
Okay, so we have the Supreme Court ruling. And like we talked about, it basically gives these tech giants like Musk,
A whole lot of power.
yeah, and power over information, which in this day and age is everything.
Right? Because that information can be used to, well, influence voters, spread misinformation.
And when you have a demographic like Latino voters who could swing the whole election,
It's a lot of power in the wrong hands.
it's a power shift, a big one. And we're watching it happen right now.
It's like a political thriller unfolding in real time.
And the stakes couldn't be higher. We're talking about the future of American democracy, how technology shapes our lives. It's huge.
It's a lot to process, seriously.
Yeah.
Like billionaires, courts, elections. It's almost like the old rules, they just don't apply anymore.
And that's what's so fascinating, right? It's like the whole system's being shaken up.
So where do we go from here? What should we be watching for as we get closer to 2024?
Well, this Musk-Trump thing, it's a wild card. Will it actually get Trump votes? Or could it backfire? And how much will Musk use Twitter to, boost Trump's message? We'll see.
Right, because he could try to stay neutral, but
It's Musk, right?
exactly. And then there's the sleeping giant. Will Latino voters actually turn out in the numbers we're expecting? And who are they going to side with?
It's the big question, isn't it? And it's tricky because it's not one giant, it's a whole group of people.
With their own needs and priorities.
Exactly. So it's not about saying, oh, they'll all vote this way. It's way more nuanced.
It's about which campaign actually connects with them on a personal level.
And understands what they need.
It's like you said, the old ways of campaigning might not work anymore.
Nope. This one's going to be one on the ground, in those communities. It's about talking to people, building trust, actually showing up.
It's like we're seeing a whole new kind of activism.
Fueled by social media, yeah.
And this desire for someone who actually represents them.
Exactly. People are done being ignored.
And that's powerful, to feel like you have a voice after being silent for so long.
Absolutely. And it reminds us, in a democracy, the power belongs to the people.
So, for our listener out there, what's the one thing you want them to take away from all of this?
Pay attention. Stay informed. What's happening right now? It's huge. Don't underestimate your own voice. This election, it's too important to sit out.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
It's going to be a wild ride, that's for sure. So buckle up, stay engaged, and remember, the future. It's up for grabs. Until next time, keep diving deeper.